Richard Hale led Elena Ruiz into the linen inventory room in the basement, took the radio from her hand, and used his tablet to disable her access card. When Elena realized the door had been locked from the outside, the manager said coldly, "Important people will be upstairs tonight. The best thing you can do for this hotel is make sure no one sees you." Above them in the ballroom, a 9-year-old girl was asking her father, "Daddy, is the woman who saved me here?" Elena tapped gently on the small glass window. "Mr. Hale, I can finish this after the event." Richard did not turn around. The sound of his shoes faded down the hallway, leaving Elena alone with 600 tablecloth sets and a door she could not open. 90 minutes earlier, the Grand Meridian had been rushing to prepare for the Whitmore Global Charity Gala. Elena had just finished cleaning a guest room when she saw Mr. Ben, an older laundry employee, struggling to push a linen cart up a ramp. Her own work was already behind schedule, but Elena still walked over. "Let me help you push it." Mr. Ben said he could manage alone. Elena simply smiled and held one side of the cart until they guided it into the service elevator. As she passed the event area, she stopped beside the children's food station. A tray of brownies had been placed beside a sign that said the food contained no nuts. Crumbs had already fallen onto the counter. Elena immediately called a kitchen employee. "Do not simply replace the tray. Clean the entire surface and bring new serving tongs. A child with a severe allergy could be in danger from even a few crumbs." Richard arrived just as the banquet manager approached. He looked at the tray and spoke as though he had discovered the problem himself. "I already warned everyone to check for cross-contact. Clean it immediately before the guests arrive." Elena did not ask for credit. To her, the only thing that mattered was that the danger had been removed. Her phone vibrated inside her pocket. Leo called to ask when she would be home to help with his science project. On the screen, the small table in their apartment was covered with colored paper and school supplies. "I will try to be home on time." "How is your extra shift going?" Elena hid the fact that her overtime hours had just been reduced. "Finish the model first. I will check it when I get home." Leo looked at the blue and yellow bracelet on his mother's wrist. He had made it from small plastic beads, including one engraved with the letter E. "You are still the best nurse." Elena smiled, but after the call ended, sadness briefly crossed her face. Her nursing degree from Honduras was not recognized in the United States, and the cost of evaluation and additional courses was still beyond what she could afford. At that moment, Nathan Whitmore entered the hotel with his daughter. Sophie held a drawing against her chest that she had kept for 6 months. It showed a woman in a gray uniform wearing blue and yellow around her wrist. Nathan met Richard at the front desk. "I'm looking for an employee named Elena, who was present when my daughter had an emergency in a private guest room 6 months ago." Richard froze for several seconds. "I am not sure the hotel still employs anyone by that name." Maya Chen was standing nearby. She knew Elena was working in the executive guest area, so she said quietly, "Elena Ruiz is working tonight." Richard immediately pulled Maya aside. "Do not mention that name in front of the guest." "But Mr. Whitmore is looking for her." "Dozens of people are waiting to take your job, Maya. Do not make me replace you with someone who knows how to follow instructions." Maya became silent, but Sophie noticed the fear on her face. Richard found Elena in the hallway, outside the private guest rooms. "What did you tell the Whitmore family?" "Nothing. I have never contacted them. Elena stopped her housekeeping cart. I only hoped Sophie was doing well. Mr. Whitmore is asking for you. Elena studied Richard for a moment and gave him a chance to step away from the lie. You can tell him the report from that day was incomplete. I do not need praise. Richard understood that admitting the truth would cause company leadership to review the entire incident, including the fact that a child with a severe allergy had once been left alone. Go to the basement and count 600 tablecloth sets. That task requires 2 people and will take the entire evening. If you refuse, I will report you for insubordination. Maya watched Richard take Elena's radio, lead her into the service elevator, and disable the door access on her employee card. Maya wanted to speak, but the threat of losing her job kept her silent. Inside the ballroom, Sophie walked past a wall displaying employee photographs. She suddenly stopped in front of Elena's picture. The face in the photograph did not fully match her memory, but the blue and yellow bracelet on Elena's wrist was impossible to mistake. Sophie pulled her father's hand. Daddy, that is her. I remember the bracelet. Richard hurried over. Elena left the hotel several months ago. But Maya had just opened the employee schedule on the computer. Elena Ruiz's name was still listed for the evening shift. Maya quietly took a picture of the screen. Nathan looked at Richard. You just said she stopped working here. Then why is Elena Ruiz still listed on tonight's schedule? Richard did not answer directly. Nathan turned toward Maya. Tell me where she is. Maya tightened her grip on the phone containing the photograph. She looked toward the service elevator and took a deep breath. If I tell you, Mr. Hale will fire me. But Elena is being held in the basement. Nathan turned toward Richard. Open the basement door. Richard maintained a calm expression in front of the employees and guests. Maya misunderstood the situation. Access to that area is restricted because of a technical problem. I will ask one last time, Nathan said. Is Elena Ruiz still inside this hotel? That was Richard's chance to correct his lie. Instead, he answered, She has already finished her shift and left. Maya stepped forward and opened the photograph of the work schedule on her phone. The timestamp showed that Elena had checked in more than 2 hours earlier and was assigned to work until the gala ended. Unable to deny the schedule any longer, Richard changed his strategy. She once entered a private guest room without permission, violated a guest's privacy, and may have endangered someone by pretending she was still a nurse. Her foreign qualifications are not valid here. Sophie immediately tightened her grip on her father's hand. No, she helped me breathe again. Nathan did not send an assistant to search for Elena. He held Sophie's hand and entered the service elevator with Maya. The charity gala behind them was still waiting for its most important guest. But for the first time that evening, Nathan placed finding a hidden employee above his own schedule. Inside the inventory room, Elena tried the internal phone again. Outside calls had been disabled. She did not panic. After checking the emergency exit, she moved a linen cart near the small window in the door so anyone passing through the hallway could see her. As she reached for a hand towel, she touched a folded document inside her pocket. It was a copy of the medical transfer form from 6 months earlier. It recorded the time the ambulance was called and carried the signature of the emergency worker who received Sophie. The name of the person who provided the first assistance had been crossed out in black ink. But Elena kept the form because it was the only evidence she had. Nathan, Sophie, and Maya reached the basement hallway. Even Maya's master access card could not open the door. "My access has never been blocked in this area," Maya said. "Mr. Hale personally changed Elena's permissions." Nathan called Owen Price, the security supervisor, and ordered him to bring the emergency unlocking equipment. Before Owen arrived, Richard came running down the stairs. "This is only a property inventory procedure," he said. "No one locked her inside." Owen checked the control panel. Ms. Ruiz's card was disabled. The door was set to open only from the outside. The emergency lock was released. When the door opened, Sophie saw Elena standing behind the linen cart. The girl did not run toward her immediately. The smell of freshly washed fabric and the cold white lighting brought back memories of the private room, the choking sounds, and the terror she had felt 6 months earlier. Elena recognized the reaction. She did not rush forward or touch Sophie. Instead, she knelt at the girl's eye level and spoke gently. "Look at me. Let us count 4 breaths together." Sophie froze. Those were the exact words that had kept her conscious when it felt as though all the air had disappeared from her chest. She ran into Elena's arms and touched the blue and yellow bracelet. "I knew it was you." Nathan looked at his daughter, holding tightly to the woman in the gray uniform. His months of searching had ended inside a room where the hotel manager believed Elena was not worthy of being seen. "Thank you for saving Sophie," Nathan said. "Why did you never contact me?" Elena removed the medical transfer form from her pocket. "Mr. Hale said I would be fired because I entered the private room without being called. I needed this job to support my son. I only knew Sophie had reached the hospital safely." Richard stepped forward. "She is inventing this story to get money. That paper does not prove she saved anyone." Elena did not argue. She handed the form to Nathan. "Do not believe me, only because Sophie recognized the bracelet. Check the emergency records, the room access logs, and the security cameras." Nathan offered Elena an immediate reward, but she shook her head. "I did not save Sophie because I wanted money. I only want you to know what happened and why people like me are always afraid to tell the truth." Maya looked at Richard and gathered all her courage. "I changed the time in the report under Mr. Hale's orders. He told me to write that he coordinated the emergency response, but I remember that he arrived only after the ambulance had already been called." Richard turned toward her. "You are destroying your career over a story with no evidence?" Owen checked the storage system. The hotel's regular security recordings were kept for only 90 days. Richard heard that and quietly exhaled. "The footage no longer exists. We should end this performance and return to the gala." But Owen continued looking at the screen. "Any incident involving an ambulance is automatically exported to the insurance archive and stored for 12 months. Only security and the legal department can access that system." Nathan ordered the gala suspended until the data had been reviewed. Richard reached toward Owen's tablet, as though he intended to take it, but stopped when he realized everyone was watching him. Inside the security room, Owen entered the incident number. A message appeared on the screen. "Emergency medical incident. Whitmore, Sophie. Archived recording available." Richard's face turned pale as the loading bar began moving. The recording was about to reveal not only who had saved Sophie. It could also expose the person who ordered the truth to be changed afterward. But what had Richard done during the 8 minutes he tried to erase from the report. The loading bar reached the end, but Nathan refused to let the recording be played in front of the guests or the press. He asked Denise Morgan, president of the Grand Meridian Executive Board and a hotel legal representative, to come to the security room. Sophie was a minor, and the truth could not be allowed to turn her fear into a public spectacle. Owen opened the archived recording from 6 months earlier. The hallway camera showed Elena pushing her housekeeping cart when she heard something fall inside the private guest room. She knocked and called out several times, but received no answer. After hearing choking sounds from inside, Elena used her emergency access card to open the door. Sophie was lying beside a table with both hands around her throat. Her face was beginning to turn blue. Elena immediately found the girl's medical bag, removed the epinephrine auto-injector, and administered it in the correct location. She called emergency services, placed Sophie on her side, and kept her conscious with the same words Nathan had just heard in the basement. "Look at me. Let us count 4 breaths together." Elena did not leave the room until the emergency medical team arrived. Owen opened the access card records. Elena's card entered the room exactly 8 minutes before Richard's. Richard appeared less than 1 minute before the emergency team arrived. The hallway recording continued. After Sophie was taken away, Richard pulled Maya aside and ordered her to list him as the person who had coordinated the emergency response. He also instructed her to remove Elena's name from the report because she should not have been inside a private guest room. Richard looked toward the legal representative. "I did it to protect the hotel from liability. Elena is not licensed to practice nursing in the United States. Including her name could have exposed us to a lawsuit. Elena did not hide the part that could be used against her. I entered the room without a manager's permission, but I heard a child choking. If I had waited for someone with authority to arrive, Sophie might have died." Her honesty left the room silent. Elena did not pretend that she had followed every procedure. She only stated that she had chosen to save a life when there was no time to wait. Maya placed her phone on the table and provided the photograph of the work schedule, along with her account of the altered report. The medical transfer form confirmed that Elena had provided the first information to the emergency team. Owen then opened the security recording from the night of the gala. It showed Richard taking Elena's radio, leading her into the basement storage room, and disabling her access card. There was no technical problem, Owen confirmed. There was also no inventory procedure that allowed a manager to lock an employee inside. Denise looked at Richard. Did anyone else help alter the report or order retaliation against Elena? This was his final chance to accept responsibility. Instead, Richard pointed toward Maya and Elena. "They are using Mr. Whitmore to destroy my career." Denise took his management card and tablet. "Richard Hale, you are suspended immediately. Your access privileges are revoked during the independent investigation. The falsified records, retaliation against employees, and unlawful restriction of access were referred to legal counsel and the proper authorities for review." Richard was not declared guilty on the spot, but he no longer had control over the evidence or the employees. Nathan returned to the ballroom, where donors and executive board members were still waiting. He did not reveal Sophie's private medical information. He only announced that the gala had been suspended because the hotel had discovered retaliation against an employee who had saved a life. Denise stepped forward and accepted responsibility. Grand Meridian allowed a manager to alter the truth and use his authority to isolate an employee. We will not sacrifice one individual and then pretend the system itself did nothing wrong. Elena was invited to speak. She did not describe her humiliation or demand that Richard be shamed in front of the crowd. I am asking for 3 changes. No employee should be punished for helping during a life-threatening emergency in good faith. Complaints from frontline workers must be sent to an independent department. And immigrant employees whose professional qualifications are not yet recognized should have access to appropriate training pathways. Nathan offered to have the Whitmore Foundation cover the evaluation of Elena's degree, additional courses, examination preparation, and childcare while she studied. He made it clear that she would still have to pass every examination and meet the same standards as all other candidates. Elena accepted because it was an opportunity, not charity. She continued working part-time while studying. 8 months later, Elena completed the first stage of her evaluation and became a safety training coordinator for hotel employees. She was not called a nurse before completing her license, but the new position accurately reflected her current abilities. Grand Meridian introduced the Open Door Safety Program across its entire hotel chain. It included paid first aid training, anonymous reporting, whistleblower protection, and support for immigrant employees seeking recognition of their professional qualifications. When Denise asked whether the program should be named after Elena, she shook her head. "Do not put my name on a wall. Put an emergency button inside every basement room." Maya kept her job, received protection from retaliation, and later became an assistant responsible for employee experience after completing additional training. Richard was terminated after the investigation and faced a civil complaint and further legal review. Nathan admitted that his first instinct had been to write Elena a check because that was the easiest solution. Elena helped him understand that workers did not need to be rescued from their dignity. They needed a system that allowed their abilities to be seen. Sophie gave Elena the drawing she had kept for 6 months. The woman in the picture was still wearing a housekeeping uniform, but there was a large heart on her chest and a blue and yellow bracelet around her wrist. Before Elena left for her evening class, Leo repaired the bracelet's worn string and said, "I told you, you never stopped being a nurse." 6 months before the gala, Elena had saved a child inside the most luxurious room in the hotel. On the night of the gala, Elena herself had waited to be rescued inside its most forgotten room. But from that day forward, no employee at the Grand Meridian would ever be locked away from the truth because of the uniform they wore. What would you have done in Maya's place? If telling the truth could cost you your job, would you still have shown Nathan where Elena was being held? Share your thoughts and continue following Stewart stories, stories of love, hope, and justice.